I guess welcome back to part two of creating Blender's user interface using Unreal Engine's UMG systems. And I'll leave the link to part one below, or just check out the playlist. And this is where we stopped, right? We have these four parts, and this one is supposed to be the timeline, okay? So this timeline is what we are going to be focusing on today, and it's supposed to like replicate whatever's going on here, or most of it. All right, this is the timeline here. So we're just going to be focusing on this lower section. Okay. Let me check. Okay. This is where we stopped, right? We copied this over and we just added it to the main user interface, and it's right here. All right, so this entire section here, this is the widget that represents it. So I recommend that you do this so that if the timeline has a problem, you don't go to the main user interface, you just focus on your timeline, all right? So you see that when we design the, for this second UI space, when we design the outliner, we'll actually create a separate outliner widget that we know that it's gonna go here. So that if this has a problem, we can just focus on its widget, okay? Yeah, so right now I'm going to start with customizing the looks, and then I'm going to explain a few things, okay? So in Blender's UI, we see that we have like two line grids. There's this darker one, and then there's this like grayish one. And the main one has labeled numbers. There's no vertical, these horizontal lines, which means we don't have any vertical line grids. So let's come to this one. You want to click here, okay? This is the canvas panel, just the canvas panel you're used to. This is another canvas panel that's supposed to be the display, okay? You can just go over here and rename it to the display canvas panel. It's meant to display a section of your language canvas panel. What do I mean by a section? So this controls, you can see this is where it ends. This language canvas size is infinite. It might end here, okay? Right here. For this example, but you can go all the way to like 500,000 or 5 million. It doesn't matter, okay? It won't affect your performance. This thing is infinite. By infinite, I mean like completely infinite, all right? So you can see when I run this, nothing happens to your performance. Everything is still working the same. And it'll scroll infinitely. It'll go all the way to like 500,000 if it has to, without affecting your performance, okay? So this widget here, it's meant for the display. But anyway, let's customize how our language looks. So click on the language canvas, this one. And we know that you find this language over here, enhance UI subsection, then language canvas, and then language, okay? So far it has two languages, all right? And I don't like that, but let's see what it has. It has a horizontal, and then it has a vertical, right? So if you disable this, you see which one's vertical, right? So if you read the tooltip on the orientation, it'll say that horizontal orientations means that the lines will be drawn top to bottom, and the grid is expected to grow or shrink horizontally, right? So the orientation is more about which way you'll be scrolling. If you'll be scrolling horizontally, that's the orientation you want, and the lines will be drawn on the perpendicular side, okay? So if you're confused about that, just read the tooltip here. So you know that we don't want any vertical line grids because we are scrolling horizontally, and this timeline has no vertical line grids. So you're going to delete this one. Just come over here and then delete it. So now we have these lines, all right? One other thing we do know is that we have a second language here, the one that's faint. So we have the main one, which is here, right? And then we have the second one. So first let's customize the main one, and then we'll add the second one after we customize the main one. So let's look at the background colors. The amount is the same. Let's say just gray color. So you want to go to your line grid, all right? That main one. You can rename the ID to match whatever your language represents. But let's go all the way down here to background properties, all right? So the brushes we have two brushes that switch every 4 bars. In this case, since our ID is bars, but you call it whatever you want. So we want to switch, let's switch the second color so that you can see what happens. So you can see that if you switch the second color, this is what happens. And let's say we just wanted to have one color, just this gray solid color. You want to delete your second color and then change the second color to match, the first color to match whatever color represents that. I think this should represent something similar to what Blender has. So yeah, I don't mind that. All right. And these orange lines that you see here, these are border lines. So come back up and then you see this border lines. There's always one on the right and one on the left. You can just delete them both. All right. So that we don't have any border lines. Okay. We're getting somewhere. But we also have, let's see, the colors of these lines right here, they're black. All right. Our colors are white, so let's change that. Go back to your line grid, all right, and look for line properties, and you want to change the color to be black, right? So boom, we have our colors as black, and I think the thickness here is too thick. Like if I were to run this, I think these lines are too thick compared to Blender's, so you can adjust your thickness right here and turn it all the way up to 1. All right. Now, we also have what we call text label. This is the labels of the lines here. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we also have tick lines. Tick lines are these orange things that you see here. Blender on its top part does not have any tick lines. So you can just go ahead and disable those, right? So enable tick lines, you want to disable those. So now we don't have those, right? And for the line properties, the text label line properties, there's an offset that we've added here, but for Blender's lines, they're directly on top. All right. So we want to do the text offset on the x-axis to be probably 0 or just minus something, but let's just leave it at 0. And this is the y. But you can see that now we have something similar. We haven't added our second line grid, but you can see now we have something more or less similar. It's not perfect, but you get the idea now, right? Yeah, I feel like this is it. Before we do anything else, let's add our second line grid, the one that doesn't have like text labels. So you can add one right here, or you can just duplicate this one if you want to. So for me, I'm just going to duplicate this. Right now we have 2 of these, but I'm going to change the line spacing. If this line grid was spaced by 100, and I want another line grid that will occur on each half of these, that means my second one's line spacing is 50. Right now you get these lines because that's what happens. Every half you get those, right? And then we didn't get the colors, right? The second colors are like grayish. So let's do the colors first. Line properties, let's just find like a gray color. I think that this should do. Yeah, now you see it. But it also has its own text labels. So what we want to do is want to disable the second line grid's text labels. So come over here and then enable text labels and set that to false. So now we have something like, well, this. Okay. If you want to stop this from scrolling, okay, just come to this graph and then just disable these execution pins. We want to come back because we want to scroll with our mouse wheel, okay? Because that timeline is being scrolled by our mouse wheel. So if you disconnect this, you see that now there's no scrolling, right? I can't even scroll with my mouse, but I'll show you how to scroll with your mouse. Okay, let's say this is your timeline and you have that. This gray is too light, so let's make it a bit darker so that it matches. So come back to your second UI and set this line properties. Let's just make it a bit darker. Okay. Something a bit darker. I don't like it. It's too not too dark, not too bright. Something like that. I think this works. Anyway, it's not the most important part, but yeah, I think this is it. I think I should even increase the thickness of this other one. I'm gonna set it to 1.5 so that it's more visible. So let's see what happens. Yeah, pretty much. Now, there's one thing that we will have to deal with here. You can see that we can grab a hold of this quite easily, but we can't grab a hold of this easily. Okay, we can't scroll because we are not clipping. So we have to clip our line grid. Okay. So go to your display canvas, right? This one, right here. Go to your display canvas and then look for or search for clipping. And we want to clip to bounds always, all right? So what we're doing here is that our grid right here, it'll clip as it goes outside the bounds of the display, which is what we want. But I'll show you one problem you'll run into. So you can see now we can use this, our splitter widget just fine. Everything works just fine. But we can't see, we've clipped out our text labels because they were going out of bounds because of that offset. The offset that you see here, let me come back here and then show you what I mean. Text label properties, we have this offset of -32. If I set this to 0, you see that the text labels will go back inside. Okay. That's great or no, but that's not what we want. And one other thing, I think the text labels are too huge. So if you want to change the font size, you want to come over here, like text label properties, and you might want to set up something small like 16. You choose your own design, guys. I'm just showing you how some of these things work. And yeah, I don't like this arrangement. So I want my text labels to be on top. So what can we do? What I usually do, to choose what to do, but what I usually do, because that clipping functionality is important, even for performance. But what I usually do is I add another line grid here into this display. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this. Okay. When I duplicate this, this is going to be my my text label line grid. Okay, you can have as many text label line grids in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change its anchor to top left. And then its size Y, I'm going to make it like 30 pixels. Okay, I just want it to be 30 pixels. All right, I'm going to go to my second one, which is the actual language that people see. And then I'm going to disable text labels from it. So enable text labels, no. I just want you to draw the lines. And then one thing I'm going to do too is I'm going to set the offset top to 30. This means it makes space for our top section. All right. And then our position X here, I wanted to start at the same position as the other one. And then you can see that these two will align all the time without fail. All right. So we have this top bar now that matches this one. And then we can customize it to look like this top bar. So what we're going to do is we don't want to draw the lines. So this is our top bar. So we are going to delete the second line grid because you can see the top bar doesn't draw the second line. So let's delete the second line grid. So you're going to come over here and just delete the second line grid. So this guy doesn't have the second line grid. For the first line grid, we want the line grid because we want to draw the text labels, but we don't want to draw the lines. We just want the text labels. So now we got that, right? So now we have this, but at the same time, we also want it to be black. Okay. So what do we do? Still on your text label line grid, you want to go over here and then do background properties, right? And then you want to change the color to make it darker so that it reflects that. Okay, so there you go. Let's see how that looks now. Okay, I like it. It's not exactly the same thing, but you see where I'm going. This one is too dark. Let's try to choose something that's it's darker, but not that dark. Yeah, something like that. And also, if you feel like the texts are not like centered, you can change the text label offsets. I think we've already talked about this, but let me give it a Y offset of like 5. Okay, maybe 3, because now it's jumping all the way there. Okay, cool. Now you see that we have somewhat of a timeline. We have an issue here. We are getting clipped too soon, and it's probably because of our display canvas here. It stops too soon, so we can just extend it here so that it yeah, just like that. Let's see. Yeah, it has come closer to our end, and let's do the one for the bottom. because this is what controls how much we display. Okay, so there's that. This guy offset bottom. I don't want you to offset bottom. So let's see. Yeah, so if you want, because what I'm planning to add here is these controls. So you might still want to leave that space for those controls. The same goes if you want to add controls to your left, you might want to do that. But anyway, I think you understand what I'm trying to do here by adjusting the left and side's borders. And then let's talk about scrolling, okay? I'm going to use my mouse wheel to scroll this. Let's assume you have your keyframes or your video editing or what have you, okay? Let's talk about scrolling. Okay, the scrolling logic is this one, the one that we just disconnected, okay? But here it was being done automatically, but I want to do it with our mouse wheel. So go over here to your widget. You can see that this is a user widget. You want to override and then look for mouse wheel because I want to scroll with the mouse wheel. If you want to use a button, use a button, but I'm going to use mouse wheel. Okay, this is our overridden function. And then we are going to copy this logic. Okay, this is the logic for scrolling. You can go through it and see how it works. But yeah, like I said, we're going to use templates here because saves us a lot of time. So if somebody scrolls, we obviously want to change the position, all right? But what we plug here, all right, into this, we want to change the X position so that it scrolls horizontally. So that's us changing the X position. I'll show you. Look what happens when I do this. You see that? Yeah, it's scrolling because I'm changing the X position. That's the scrolling part. So when that happens, okay, on mouse wheel, we want to get the delta, all right, the mouse event that you see here. I want to get the delta, get wheel delta, which means the change compared to the last one. And I want to multiply the delta by 5 so that the scrolling is it's faster. So you can do 5, you can do 15. Let's start with 5, all right? So, and then I want to change this to a plus instead of a minus because if the wheel delta is negative, this will subtract. If it's positive, that will be positive. So that's the only thing I want to change here. I want to do X and then I want to do plus, okay? And then do this and then plug this into the X. And then we want to delete that one. So I'm expecting this to work. I don't know if it works. I haven't tested it here, but let's see. Something is not compiling. Event reply should not be empty. Okay, yeah. So on the last here, I just do handled. Okay, just look for handled. You're basically telling the system that you've handled the mouse wheel scrolling, so it's nothing you should overthink. I want to go here, and then you can see as I scroll down, it's scrolling, okay? Then it's scrolling up. But something else is happening here. We're not scrolling our top line grid, this one. So we need to do the same for both. So what we do here is we want to do the same logic, for the second line grid, which is let's rename our line grids, okay? So this is the labels line grid. I don't know, you call it whatever you want. And then this is the actual timeline line grid. I'll call it the timeline line grid. We will be placing our keyframes. Okay, cool. Once you have this, right, let's go back here so that we know what we're dealing with. Timeline line grid, we have to affect the label line grid the same. So just copy this, right? Copy same logic, and we have set position, and this needs to be called by the labels line grid. I'm going to target the labels line grid. You want to keep the Y the same. What's going on here? Set position. No, not that. Okay. Set position. Yeah. Split this. We'll just connect this here instead of splitting stuff and starting from scratch. And then the X here that you use here for the timeline line grid, you want to use it here too. All right. So you want to do this and then do that. And then we want to complete our scrolling. Let's see if that works. I haven't tested it, but let's see. Yeah, you can see both of them are scrolling. All right, at the same position, both of them are scrolling. There's some caveats you can fix, but that's just with to do with the way you orient or place your line grids on its display canvas, like this one. So if you have like things are not displaying properly, or they're not they're getting cut off or getting clipped, just take a look at your display canvas right here. The display canvas is just a simple canvas panel. It's okay. So now we are scrolling, and you might want to ask about controls. Okay. So for controls, let's see what we can do about that. For controls, guys, we have this other one here that you see